I'd like to say good afternoon. This is Gatwiri Muthara. I'm the Membership and Communications Manager with COMTO National. Today, our Emerging Leaders Subcommittee will present their webinar, Navigating Work-Life Balance During Challenging Times. Before we begin, I'd like to take time to thank our industry partners for their support of COMTO throughout the year. They are AECOM, H&TB, Jacobs, and WSP. Now, before we begin, I have a few webinar housekeeping items I'd like to review. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please send a chat message to the host. If you're experiencing, to submit questions for the Q&A portion of the call, please use the Q&A box. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. This call is being recorded and will be made available to all attendees. And once again, thank you for joining us, and we do apologize for the delay. Next, I'd like to introduce Aisha Eccleston, who is the Emerging Leaders Co-Chair and Director of the National Container Accounts at Jacksonville Port Authority, to give opening remarks. Aisha?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so very excited to have each of you on the webinar today. You could have certainly used your time in other places, but you chose to spend your time with COMTO, and for that, we really do thank you, and we appreciate that support. As Gatwiri said, my name is Aisha Eccleston. I work for the Jacksonville Port Authority, so I'm a director for supply chain solutions, as well as the co-chair for the Emerging Leaders Subcommittee, along with my wonderful colleague, Mr. Sorrell Weems, who's the Senior Vice President for Plant Moran, CRESA, and he's a member of COMTO Detroit. So a little bit about the Emerging Leaders Subcommittee. We are a subcommittee to the membership committee, and the work that we do to put together these programs, it really is for member benefit. So people who are existing COMTO members, this is a way that we show that we appreciate your support, and we try to put programming shape that. So we have a tier structure as well. So whether you're at the beginning of your career as a young professional, or you are at the C-suite level, we have programming for every tier. As Gatwiri stated, today's webinar is going to be focused on navigating work-life balance during challenging times, and I'm sure you can each relate to that. Today's webinar was organized by our wonderful Tier 2 program managers, Ms. Dominique D. Mathis, who's a business development manager for Du Bois Engineering Consultants, as well as the other Tier 2 program manager, Ms. Crystal Allen Dallas, who will serve as your moderator for today's webinar. So I'll go right into a brief introduction of Crystal, and then I'll transfer it over to her, because I'm really ready to hear what we have to discuss on today's webinar. We have a wonderful panel of experts, so I'm excited to hear what we got to cover. So Crystal Allen Dallas is the founder and chief creative strategist for Excel Business Concepts. Her firm specializes in public engagement and information campaigns. Crystal knows a few things about work-life balance. She's active in her community. She's also a wife and a mother of 2 children, ages 7 and 4. So if no one else knows how to navigate work-life balance, I know that Ms. Crystal Allen Dallas does. So with that said, I'll transfer it over to her to go ahead and introduce and get started with this wonderful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Truly honored to be here today. We have a dynamic panel assembled for discussion around navigating work-life balance today. I just want to high-level introduce our panel and get right into the discussion. So our first panelist is Monica Backmon. She has served as the Executive Director of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority since May of 2014. She has more than 20 years of public and private sector transportation experience. And Monica is married and has a 10-year-old daughter, so she knows a thing or two about work-life balance as well. Our next panelist is Karina Decree. She is a managing partner and a senior consultant at Insight Strategies with nearly 20 years of experience, ranging from training, facilitation, coaching, and speaking. Her firm has worked with more than 50 agencies, organizations, and associations, transportation associations across the country. Carita has been married 26 years and is the proud mother of 2 sons and a grandson. Next, we have Russell Hughes. He's the Senior civil engineer at Burns and McDonnell in Detroit. There, he leads the water supply and design services, focused on expanding the firm's. Russell is also very familiar with work-life balance. He has, listen to this, everyone, 61 children. Yes, you heard me right, 61. And so that is comprised of his 13-year-old son, as well as 60 high school football players that he coaches. And listen to this, led them to the championship last year during the pandemic. I think we got the right people here to talk to us today. So when I saw that, I had to share that with you all. And next, and finally, last but definitely not least, we have Whitney Morgan. He is the DBE Liaison for the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority and is responsible for the organization's DBE, SBE, MBE, and WBE programming compliance. Also in that role, he works to facilitate, lost my notes, sorry, to facilitate programming along that way as well. So we got Carita has joined us and we have Russell. So I want to go ahead and jump right into the program as the hour is already far spent. One of the things that we wanted to do when Dee and I were working to put together this webinar specifically is we wanted to have the opportunity to talk about last year, right? That was a doozy of a year. And we felt that we needed to do a couple things. We needed to acknowledge that 2020 occurred and understand that we're still working through 2020, right? Here in 2021, I'm not sure how I feel about it. So we want to kind of dive in and talk to our expert panelists here from a wide range of how they were able to navigate the unforeseen challenges that we were all faced with in 2020 and beyond. And then also kind of highlight some of those successes. It was some challenges, but we also had some bright spots. We want to take an opportunity to look at knowing that professionally, many of us are still in different places. Some of us may have reached our goals and maybe not. What are some tips and tricks, and resources that you all can share with us on today to help our attendees continue to grow and advance? And then finally, again, we recognize that we still need some tools in our toolbox, right? So what are those things that we can be doing right now today to pivot and to continue to grow as we endeavor to navigate through challenging times? So with that being said, we're gonna go right into it and kick it off in 60 seconds or less. Monica, kick us off. The first question is, what is your definition of work-life balance? And has it been a challenge to achieve it in the COVID-19 pandemic environment?
Thank you so much, Crystal, and good afternoon, everyone. So my definition of work-life balance is when there is no imbalance or stress on my mental, physical, and emotional well-being, given the level of responsibility and obligation I have to my family and to my employer. Was it difficult or has it been a challenge to achieve? Last year, yes, to be quite honest, it was a challenge. I was trying to define and shape my new normal, having been given that I had the opportunity to telework. Also ensuring that my staff had technology and the resources in place to support my teleworking. Add on to that, I have a 10-year-old who's virtual learning. I became a substitute teacher, a teaching assistant, and it all hit at one time. And it seemed as if my workload increased. But one thing I've learned, and this year is a lot better, give myself permission and the flexibility to cultivate a new normal that suits my lifestyle. Thank you.
Excellent. Russell, same question to you.
How you guys doing? Good afternoon. And to answer this question in 60 seconds, so my definition of work-life balance would be just meeting the demands of work or your career, meeting the demands of your career and your personal life, and how you kind of balance those two very demanding topics. And was it a challenge during the COVID-19 year? I believe it was a challenge as we saw the lines between kind of your work life and your personal life blur. Like she stated, where you're trying to be a parent, but you have to be a teacher, and you got to still work. And my office is right here, my kitchen is right there, and my living room is right in front of me. So the lines between kind of work and personal life blur. But I think if you take a focus on where you're putting your energy and not so much where you're putting your time, you can help navigate that a little bit. Maybe I get to speak a little more on work-life energy later.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll put a pin for there. Carita, tell us about your definition of work-life balance.
Yeah, Monica really started off with a great definition, and I just want to add to that. She used the word permission, and that really resonates with me. I think work-life balance is giving yourself permission to navigate between all of the various roles that we play with a clear conscience. Right. So I have a busy job. I'm a managing partner and a senior consultant at a consulting firm. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. You know, I'm a sister. I play all the roles in my family. Oh, yeah. And then there's me. Can't forget about myself. Right. So, you know, it's not really a balance of two things. It's not like one of those scales where there's two things balanced equally on either side. It's more like spinning plates, you know, and how do you give yourself permission to walk away from one plate to the other plate and keep that plate spinning for a little while and still feel good about it?
Yeah. Definitely. I love that about the permission and spinning the plates, because I feel like I'm always on this hamster wheel of, you know, what to do next. So Whitney, you jump in here, give us some feedback on what your definition of work-life balance is and how you were able to apply that in these challenging times.
Definitely. Thank you all for having us. This is a great esteemed panel of colleagues, but me, myself, my definition is to manage the ability of your work tasks, your relationships, and opportunities for improvement with your daily responsibilities at home. So how do you be productive in both areas? Like Carita said, spinning plates, but you don't want to be always productive in the work area, but not productive at home, where your wife and kids feel neglected and tasks at home are stacking up, you know, making sure you're doing all the tasks at home. So how do you balance those two, and how are you productive into, like Russell said, with the energy? Are you putting enough energy towards both and making sure you actually clock out on time and you're not receiving emails at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and you're not sending emails at those times? You gotta unplug and give that time back to your family.
Definitely, Whitney. Very good nuggets. Thank you all for sharing on that question. And we're going to move right along to our next question is around goal setting and brand development, right? I'm sure we all had to really level set one and then really work out our plan for success in these times. So Russell, I'm going to have you kick us off on this one. Since networking is a key component in the business and personal growth, did the stay-at-home environment pose more challenges or opportunities for you to grow your business or personal brand?
Okay, so for me, my situation may be a little different than others, as a lot of people during the pandemic, they were losing jobs, but I fortunately was able to gain employment during the pandemic. I started at my new firm, Burns and McDonnell, in June 1st of last year. So literally a month into the shutdown, you know, I'm starting a new job and I'm meeting people, my managers, and everything is just like this, is virtual. I didn't go into an interview. I did a Zoom call for my interviews. I met all my coworkers on Zoom. And once the pandemic kind of slowed down, I got to meet these people in the office, but now we all have on masks. So I can't even put a name to a face, because now they have a mask on and I'm trying to look at their eyes, trying to identify, did I meet you on the Zoom call last week? So for me, it was challenging, but it presented a lot of opportunities. You know, like you said, I coach high school football, so I view challenges as opportunities to show kind of who you really are. I think we all, when I say we all, I mean everyone can look good during the great days when the sun is shining, but who are you in the face of adversity? And I think that really defines people, you know, at their core. Who are you when you have to meet that deadline on a Friday and you want to go home and you spend a long week Do you meet your deadline? Who are you when you face adversity? So I view challenges as opportunities. And I think that the COVID-19 pandemic was a year of great adversity for a lot of people, but I think a lot of people took advantage, and I did. So I hope a lot of people took advantage of any opportunities that were kind of presented during these challenging times.
Okay, and just to stay right there real quick, you got a new job during the pandemic. We got to backstep just a little bit. Give us a little bit more insight into how did you do that, Russell?
It was just through networking. So, you know, I had a great guy, Sorrell Weems. He's a member of COMTO and on the panel for the Emerging Leaders group. And there was a job that Sorrell they were recruiting him for, and he unfortunately couldn't take it. So he said, "Hey, Russ, you know, there's this company looking for, you know, someone in this role. You may not be able to do what I do, but you could probably help them achieve some of their goals." So he made a call, and they ended up reaching back out to me. So I guess through networking and kind of building your own personal brand. And that's one thing I always try to speak to people when I talk about personal branding. Like every interaction you have with a person is a reflection of your personal brand. So like you can go into a restaurant, a place of business, and you can have one bad encounter there and you'll never go back. And I think it's the same thing with people. You can have one bad encounter with a person and you can shy away from them. So if you're thinking about your personal brand with every interaction that you have with people, places, things you do, you say, you leave that positive impact on those people and they want to keep coming back, as per se.
No, I love that. I always say relationships are key. They're the foundation. And I see, Monica, I see you shaking your head. How about you get in here and kind of talk to us about your experience?
Well, thank you for that. And just to piggyback off of what Russell said, relationships, networking. You don't know who knows who and who's watching you. So I would say always, you know, give your peak performance. Whatever task you're doing, whatever job you're in, making sure that you're optimizing that position because you don't know who's really looking at you. And that means you're establishing your network. People are watching you who you do not even know. And like Russell in his example about Cyril, hey, I can't take this position, but I think you would be a good fit because people are observing you, they have relationships with you, they have a network, and just make sure you try to expand your network. I think that was something that for me, at least, I was able to do in the pandemic a little better. Being at home, it allowed me to pick up on some things I had been neglecting regarding my network and opportunities and things of that nature, because I'm like, oh, I'm traveling, I'm in the car, I'm on the train, you know, and that takes a lot of time. Whereas when I'm at home, I reshifted my focus and making sure that, look, I need to make sure my network and my relationships are on par regarding the work that I'm trying to do.
Yes, definitely. I think that's what last year kind of allowed us to reset, right? And to reevaluate, hey, where am I spending my time? You know, we have our time, our talent, and our treasures. And where we put those things are really everything. And so when we have that chance to level set and say, hey, relationships are important, work is important, but we need everything to be in its place. And what you said earlier, Monica, about that balance, having that balance, creating that balance is very important as well. Whitney, Carita, any additional thoughts on this one?
Sure. I definitely, to answer your question, I think it's been easier to network during this time because, so for example, I'm a DBE officer. In the past, I would attend a lot of outreach events to talk to different DBE vendors in the area and things like that. But that's Kansas City, right? But through social media, I can be everywhere all at once. I'm able to utilize my platforms, whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, share content, become relatable, build relationships. Like Monica said, it's all about relationships. So I found myself having more conversations with multiple people through LinkedIn, setting up one-on-one Zoom missions, learning more about people. What are their interests? What is their position? But more likely, who are they and what do they do, so I can learn more about them and how they can help me and how I can help them. And not necessarily in the transportation industry, all over. So just getting to know people so I can utilize those relationships later. I think during this time, Russell got a new position and I'm happy for him. I took a different route. I actually opened my own business during this time, my own LLC, because I recognized the need for credit and financial literacy, especially during the pandemic with so many people losing jobs and things like that. So I have my 9-to-5 where I'm helping small businesses get contracts and learn more about the certification process. But my 6-to-9 is more in tune with personal accountability and helping people in that way. So I love my job, but my 6-to-9 is going to be, building myself up and my personal brand as well.
Excellent. And also, Whitney, if you would touch on, as a past COMTO chapter president, Kansas City, shout out to our chapter, talk about the COMTO network, specifically how, you were such a force for me when I became a member of COMTO, and a big reason that I did get involved, and I was just so impressed with your ability to connect people. It is just something to see. So if you could talk to us a little bit about your strategy, or just how you do that. I don't even know if that is a strategy, it's just who you are, I think, but.
Thanks for the kind words, Crystal. And for those who don't know, Crystal actually resides in St. Louis, but she's a member of Kansas City. But so for me, it was out of necessity, right? So I joined COMTO in 2013. A colleague of mine, he put this thing called COMTO on my desk. I didn't know anything about it. He said, "Hey, you should check this out." He's one of the few Black gentlemen in Mid-America Regional Council. He was a senior level gentleman, and he put it on my desk. He said, "You need to check this out." I ended up going to the first national conference in Jacksonville. First national conference for me, and I went solo. So in turn, I had to network. I had to build relationships. I didn't have the comfort of my local chapter or people I knew with me at the conference where we can kind of click up and, go to different restaurants and things like that. So I had to reach out to any and everybody, get to know people. So that actually helped my brand as far as getting to know people, because I didn't know anybody. So that's definitely been an asset for me. Also, joining national committees. I think I've been on pretty much every committee call at some point, especially now during the pandemic. So joining national committees is a great way to get to know people more successful than you and build relationships with them, or people who are where you want to be. Like Monica is someone I would build a relationship with her because she's where I want to be, as opposed to somebody who's my peer, so to speak.
Thank you, Whitney. That is excellent.
Crystal, is it okay? Yeah, I want to jump in.
I want to say, Carita, get in there.
Yeah, so just to add two things to all of this great information that my fellow panelists have shared, I think networking has been easier as well. I agree with Whitney. I think for people who are introverted, and I'm somewhat of an introvert, it can be really intimidating to do what Whitney just said that he did, right? He went to a conference by himself. He had to just walk up to people and start talking. And sometimes if you're an introvert, especially, it's hard to know where to start, and it's hard to break yourself out of that discomfort. So what made the pandemic kind of an especially good time for networking is everybody was going through the same thing. So you immediately had an opening line, right? Your opening line was, how's your pandemic going? How's your quarantine going? Who do you know that's been affected? And it just gave us this common denominator, no matter who you were, if you were a leader of an organization, if you were a person who leads by example, we all, the levels just kind of went away, right? And we all had kind of that common bond. So I thought networking really became easier as a result of that. And then I just wanted to add to what Whitney said. There is not a local COMTO chapter where I live. And so for me, I became a member of COMTO National. So everybody out there, if you're not a COMTO member, and the reason you're not a COMTO member is because you don't have a local chapter, you can be a member at large. Just join COMTO National. And so once I did that, and then joined the Emerging Leaders Subcommittee, it introduced me to so many other people within COMTO. Now, when the next time we are able to get together face to face, I'm going to not feel that intimidation or that discomfort being an introvert, because I've met so many people through being a member of COMTO, even on the national level. So just wanted to add that.
No, Carita, that's a great plug for COMTO. That's the reason we're here today. And I have to say, shout out to nationals, because honestly, I was at one point just bogged down with everything COVID. And I literally got on an emerging leaders webinar or conference call we were having. And I mean, it just literally picked me up. And I have just been nonstop committed to being a part of that group, because everyone was just authentically sharing about what was happening with them in COVID. And to have that network and have that space to do that was just phenomenal. So thank you for that. Shout out to COMTO. If you're not a member, you need to join today. Next question, as we're going to move on here. We want to spend some time really in this career, personal development, or pivoting things that we did. So we'll spend some time there. On this webinar, we have attendees at all levels of their professional journey. We have the C-suite, we have entry level, we have mid-managers, and so on. And so in putting together the panel, we really wanted you all to be reflective of who we thought might be able to get something out of this session today. And I feel like there's been a lot of great nuggets and gems already dropped. I've been trying to write in between listening to each of you. So in your opinion, and Carita will have you lead off with this one. In your opinion, what are 3 things we should be doing right now to position ourselves for success?
That's a great question. I think number 1 is we all need a reentry plan, right? We all need a reentry plan. The pandemic appears to be coming to somewhat of a close. It looks like the quarantine is being lifted in a lot of places as more and more people get vaccinated and we get to that point where we have herd immunity. More and more offices are going to be opening up, more and more opportunities are going to be back for face-to-face interaction. What is your reentry plan? And again, it doesn't matter if you are the leader of an organization, especially if you're the leader of an organization, you should be thinking about what does reentry look like for my employees, because expectations are going to be very different going back to work than they were a year ago, right? Some people are still going to want to be hybrid and work from home on occasion. Some people are going to look forward to going back to the office because they miss that social interaction. Some people are going to be dragged, kicking and screaming. So you've got to think about all of those possibilities and develop some strategies for that. So if you're a leader of an organization, I would say, what's your reentry plan from that standpoint? If you are an individual contributor, if you're an employee, what's your reentry plan? To Russell's example, he is working with people that he's never met face to face, right? So we're going to be stepping foot into a workplace having never met our coworkers face to face. What is that going to be like? And how do you want to present yourself? How do you want to define yourself, right? A lot of those people who do come back kind of kicking and screaming, like, I don't really want to return to the office. We need as many people to counterbalance that as possible. So how can you present an image of acceptance and positivity and like, we got this, and bringing ideas and bringing solutions? So I think positioning yourself for success is really thinking about what's your reentry plan. That would be number 1. Number 2, I would say, is skill development. Really looking at what are some of the trends in our industry right now. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a hot topic that is here to stay. If that is something that is of interest to you, how do you educate yourself in that space? If that's not something of interest to you, what are some of the other trends in our industry, in transit and transportation, that you can develop your skills in? And there's so many free resources online. There's LinkedIn Learning, there's Udemy, there's Coursera. There's so many things online that you can use right now to develop your skill set. And then I think the third thing is developing your credibility. You know, at my organization, and I know there's some people on the webinar who've attended some of our leadership development classes, so this is going to be familiar to you, but we talk about the recipe or the formula for credibility is expertise, relationship, and results, right? So how do you demonstrate your expertise in a topic? How do you maximize the relationships that you have in that space? How do you show that you're a results-oriented person, right? So how do you, and you've got to be really intentional, because for some people, showing their credibility or maximizing their credibility can come across as brown nosing, right? Or, you know, it can have a negative component or a negative perception to it. But you've got to be intentional about, you know, showing yourself as a person who has a great deal of credibility. So those would be my three.
Awesome. Those are some great nuggets. I want to pivot to Monica right now because you are leading an agency and kind of have you expand from that point of view as well on it.
Thank you for that. Carita really hit the nail on the head regarding the transition plan and having that plan. I'm looking at that plan now because my entire office, we were teleworking, but now where we were last year this time is a lot different from where we are now. So we're working on a transition plan, and Carita is absolutely right. You know, some people are like, look, I can be as productive or even more so working at home 100% of the time. And I'm trying to balance that out with the needs of the organization and what is our new normal, because yes, we are definitely promoting teleworking. Do we have a policy where we telework 1 or 2 days a week? But just having that transition plan is critical because it gets back to the whole work-life balance. And people have discovered in this new normal that some can do a lot at home, a lot more than they were doing at home, and others do want to be in the office. So that is something that is critical. It takes a lot of communication with your staff and your team leads to make sure you have the right fit and the right plan moving forward. The other thing I would note is be a mentor or be a mentee.
Yes.
That is very, very important. Mentorship is extremely important. And I say that's for all levels of where I have a mentor, because sometimes I have issues that I just need to run past someone who've experienced this before or who have some knowledge or awareness of it. Even leading an organization, it's always, always important to make sure you have a mentor or that you're a mentee. You know, sharing knowledge. Do not hoard knowledge. One thing, you know, you run across this sometimes. People have knowledge and I'm afraid to share because will I lose my value to an organization if I, start imparting my knowledge? But I think it's the opposite approach. You share your knowledge. That's how you leave your legacy, pull up people with you. And then when we talk about networking, COMTO, and other organizations utilize these platforms. There is so much information here at COMTO that I'm still trying to, navigate. It's a lot of information, and information is resources. Utilize these organizations, and COMTO is a great one. We have people that are part of COMTO that has, been at the very top, if you will. Utilize that. Reach out. People want to help. So make sure you take advantage of your resources.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent addition, Monica, because moreover, people do want to help and they want to share the resources. And I'm of the mind, the more people at the table, the better. I have this thing where when I come into organizations and I'm the only one that looks like me or the only woman, I'm swinging the door wide open. I'm trying to bring as many people as I can because that's really my legacy. It's not just about what I do, it's about what we do as a collective, right? And so with that being said, Russell, do you have any additional thoughts there? And then also any advice that you would give to someone that's pivoting right now during this time?
So my advice to pivot during this time is to find that sense of purpose or refine your sense of purpose if you already have one. I think a lot of us here, just being a part of COMTO, like me joining COMTO was me fulfilling my sense of purpose, like trying to get minorities involved in engineering in the transportation industry. So I think if we find our sense of purpose within the workplace, I think that allows your your energy to go up, because I think the stuff that you're passionate about, when you have a purpose, you're passionate about that. And the stuff that you're passionate about, you're willing to put as much energy as needed into it, and you do it effortlessly. So the work-life balance becomes less about kind of the time that you spend on doing these different tasks. So I got 8 hours in a day, and these 8 hours I have to get so much stuff done. And with the dynamic is changing to, we got all these, we're juggling so many different things. Like balance isn't the correct word to use there. As Carita said earlier, it's like spinning plates. So if you put your energy in different places, so if I allocate my energy here, but if I have a sense of purpose, that energy never goes away. Where time is constantly depleting. All right, I'm running out of hours. I got 6 hours left today. I got a meeting at 3 o'clock. But if you got a sense of purpose and energy, every interaction that you have with people is full of excitement. It's full of, you leave a mark on people. You leave some energy, and you feel better yourself. You don't feel drained at the end of the day. You're ready to go do your 6 to 9, like Whitney said. All right, I'm off work. I'm about to go teach some people about credit. So you're hyped up about stuff. So I would say find that sense of purpose and use that sense of purpose to create energy in everything that you do beyond that. So the transition into the office shouldn't be oh man, I got to go back into work with these people I never met. But let's go. Like, I'm excited about it. Let's create some energy. Let's go back into the office with that energy and that sense of purpose. Okay, I'm going to the office, and I got another chance to motivate a young Black engineer that's meeting me in the office today. So if I look at it like that versus back in the office with low energy, I think that benefits me and the people around me, and I'm able to, like Crystal said, pull as many people through that door as possible, because now they see what I'm doing, and I'm kind of creating that ladder up and just pulling people up the ladder.
Definitely, because representation matters. It matters. And if each one reaches one, wow, what the impact that we can have, not only in our communities, but in our world. Whitney, I want to allow you to get in on this question before we pivot to Q&A. Just so many nuggets. I'm writing them all down. That purpose, though, Russell, it has me, because I started my company literally because of that, to have the flexibility to work on dynamic projects that meant something to me, but then also that I could make space and time. I was a young mother, for my son, and now I have 2 children, and I have that duality of being able to be there for them and not miss key things, but then also to make an impact on major projects in the community as well. So Whitney, I want you to get in here a little bit on this question, if you have something.
Well, I think you just said it. Russell definitely touched on it, identifying your purpose. And this is the perfect time during a pandemic, during a quarantine, to reevaluate your life. Are you in the field or the job that you want to be in? Are you fulfilling your purpose? Are you giving your all to your community and those around you? So I definitely think there's a lot of new problems that are going to need new solutions. So whether that's in your company, you can identify those new problems, and that'll be a way to elevate yourself within the company, because you're coming with solutions for new problems. Or if you're a business owner, how do you attack those new problems and become a solution in that regard? So definitely developing your skills as well. Like Carita said, I'm gonna use my grandmother example, and I think she's on the call as well. Hi, Bobby. But she's in her 80s, right? But she's taking French. She's retired. There's no reason for her to take French other than what she wanted to. So wow. That's an area of just personal development, always improving yourself and making yourself more marketable to the out there. So definitely, if you're looking to pivot, I would say learn new skills to make yourself more marketable and get yourself out there, build relationships with others.
Excellent.
Can't hear me?
Yes, that's okay. Excellent. Thank you, Whitney. Waturi, I'm going to defer to you. I know we're going to open it up for Q&A. I don't know, is that going to be live, or are we just taking questions in the chat or Q&A?
I have a few questions in the chat.
Okay.
So I know we're nearing our 1 hour mark. So if anyone needs to drop off, that's fine. Please note that we are recording this session. So if you want to come back and get some of these nuggets, or come back and hear what you may have missed, that's fine. But we are going to go over a little bit, and we're going to try to get some of these questions answered. So the first question I have from the audience is from Ashley. She says, luckily, there does seem to be an end in sight for this pandemic. How can we continue to maintain these new relationships post-pandemic when people are no longer just a Zoom call away?
Great question, Ashley.
I'll
Yeah.
jump in if it's okay. I think the answer to that question for me is just about intentionality, right? And I think it depends on which if you're what kind of relationship maybe you're talking about. If it's a relationship with other COMTO members, again, joining a subcommittee or a committee is a great way to have a reason to have a monthly check-in with other like-minded people who are interested in talking about transit and transportation issues. But if it's sort of like a new relationship, Ashley, that you're thinking, how do I cultivate this new relationship when, we're no longer just a Zoom call away? I think, again, it's about intentionality, really giving, sitting down and thinking about what value do I add to this relationship? Not necessarily what do I get from it, but what do I add to it? And how can you then find resources to share with that other person? So maybe it's, hey, I came across this great article that I wanted to share with you. Or, during the pandemic, I learned that you really like chili and I came across this great chili recipe. Or, so how can you add value by having a reason to reach out and touch base with that person to maintain that relationship?
Great
So I would
answer.
jump in and say, if it's a peer-to-peer relationship, find a common interest between each other. So that common interest brings you together. If it's a mentor-mentee relationship, the mentee reaches out to the mentor. The mentor should never have to continuously reach out to the mentee. That means you're not serious. So if that's the type of relationship, the mentee has to spur that relationship. But definitely, like you said, intentionality is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add a little bit to that, I think we being intentional about our relationships, but also being genuine. Let's not forget that we're all people and we're interacting with other people. And I think you can appreciate maybe the people you trust the most in your life are probably the most genuine people. So if you let these interactions with people during our Zoom calls be genuine, I believe that when we transition back to the real world, if you had genuine, meaningful conversations, relationships with people, that should translate back into the real world. If I genuinely had an interest, like Whitney said, if I had an interest, a shared interest with you, and it was genuine, that conversation should never end. No matter if we got Zoom or I pick up my phone or if I send you a Twitter message, if it's genuine, it doesn't go anywhere. So I think if you focus on creating those type of relationships with people and being genuine about it, that they don't go anywhere.
If I could add, I just want to echo everything that the panelists have said. People can discern intent and whether you're genuine and authentic or not. And if it's something that's really important to you, if these relationships are really important to you, you will make sure that you are connected. Whether it's Zoom, can you meet up for lunch? If someone is long distance, what social media platforms do you use? Do you pick up the telephone? That just making sure that it is genuine, that it's authentic, because people can feel that. And you want to make sure that when you're making these relationships and we're trying to continue these relationships, as Carita said, it's not about what I can get from it. What can you put into it? And Whitney mentioned that the mentor shouldn't have to always follow up with the mentee. Just making sure that you're doing your part, because as a mentor, you want to know that your mentee is serious. People can discern whether you are authentic and genuine.
Definitely, Monica. I 100% concur with all the comments around intentionality, around being your genuine self. And that mentorship piece, that's a two-way street, right? We all have to come and show as our whole selves. And also want to just add that when we're talking about COMTO, this is one of the benefits. Like, we have the opportunity to meet in this space right now, virtually, but you have people who you're accountable to. Sorrel and Aisha have been so dynamic, just really checking in on us, and making sure everyone is doing okay and helping give us that support. And obviously at the national level, they have been so supportive. We actually couldn't even have done this webinar without them. So shout out to Nationals and just COMTO as an organization for the ongoing efforts that they provide to assist us in our career development and personal development.
Okay, so for our next question, we're going to fit in 2 more questions. So this next question is, what is your preferred social media platform to connect with people and why?
Can I start with that one?
Yeah, go ahead and start, Russell. We know you like social media.
I'm like, let's see.
Oh, looks like he froze.
Did you freeze on
He
us?
did freeze.
Okay, we got
it.
There you
Okay,
go.
I'm back.
Yes.
You back.
Okay. I'm a football coach, but also I run all of our football team social media pages. So I run like our Facebook page, our Twitter page. I help all of our student athletes with creating their social media accounts. I monitor everything they post. I tell them what they should be posting, what they should not post. And so for me, my preferred, I guess I don't have a preferred one. I use different ones for different things. So like a lot of people I grew up with or close family members use Facebook. A lot of my young friends from college use Instagram. All my football players use Twitter. You know, it's been a point where I've even used Twitter and gotten kids scholarship offers. You send out a video to a college coach that's on Twitter. He likes the video. The next day he's back at the school offering the kid a scholarship because he saw his video on Twitter. So the power of social media is more now than has ever been before. So I think using each social media platform maybe for a different demographic, because everyone may not use Twitter, or some people may prefer TikTok over Instagram or Facebook. Like everybody has their own niche or what they prefer. So just kind of being aware of who the audience is, I guess. I guess that's what I would say. Whatever social media platform you're using, being aware of the audience and what you're putting out there, because once it's on the internet, it's out there forever.
If I could add to that, I 100% agree with Russell. I know when I started on Facebook, which was my preferred platform at a particular time because I was just connecting with family and friends, my nephew told me that's for old people. And I'm like, well, you know, okay. So having received that fact check, you know, I made sure that I was utilizing Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok, but for different purposes, and understand how you want to utilize each platform and what messages do you want to convey. Because again, once it's out in social media, there is no delete. There is no getting rid of it. It lives long after you do, you know,
Yep.
And just being mindful of that when you're picking your platforms. But social media is so big, you can use it to your advantage. Just make sure that you're utilizing it and know the purpose that you want to convey and the intent you want to convey. I love the idea of the videos on Twitter and scholarship offers. You know, that is a great connection. So just making sure you maximize social media for your benefit.
To your point, Monica, so you have to have a consortium of social media platforms to cover all bases, because yeah, the kids are not really on Facebook, but they're on TikTok and they may be on Instagram. So I have all 4 and I use all 4 for different reasons. But yeah, you have to have a consortium, and you have to put out content that may be relevant to your job, that may be relevant to your business, but most importantly, relevant to yourself. People want to relate to you. They want to know who you are, and then they'll buy into whatever you're putting up regarding your job or your business or what have you. But they want to get to know you first. And so you sell yourself first, they buy into it, and then maybe we can talk DB certification or credit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You got some, Carita?
I'm a LinkedIn person. I love LinkedIn. I use it every day. But to Monica's point, this is a conversation about work-life balance. For my personal life, it's mainly Facebook. But for and I don't accept very many, connection requests on Facebook. Like if you're not a part of my family, or you went to high school with me and I actually know you, then I might not accept your request. But to connect outside of that, LinkedIn is my go-to. It is to me, it's an underutilized resource, and it can do a lot to elevate your profile.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Carita. I've been on LinkedIn for a very long time, and I also use all the other platforms that you all mentioned, with the exception of TikTok. And LinkedIn has been a great resource when I was at a 9 to 5, and definitely now that I have a business. You'd be surprised at the amount of leads that we generate utilizing that platform.
Okay, so this is our final question. And we're running out of time. So I guess a quick 60-second answer. What is something you do just for you to reset / achieve balance in your life?
I go for walks. I make sure I get out in nature, unplug, and get away from all distractions to get my mindset right, say my prayers, go through my affirmations, and get my mindset right before I actually go out there and attack the world.
So I take 30 minutes of alone time with just me, myself, and I. So I can refocus, meditate, just take a breather, and then repurpose myself and making sure that, or recentering myself, so I can make sure that I'm ready to go out and do what I need to do. It's my calming time. I'll read a few affirmations, as Whitney noted, and just making sure that I'm investing back and pouring back into myself so that I can give my best to everyone else. So for me, alone time is critical, and I have to have bare minimum 30 minutes.
Yeah, I exercise every morning. I do a walk just like Whitney does, a walk around my neighborhood. And I do a 10-minute meditation in the middle of the day, roughly in the middle of the day every day.
Man, you guys just named everything that I want to do that I haven't done. I'm like, man, I've said I want to meditate for years, but for me, I think I just take time to myself. A lot of times I read. I got a bunch of different books, and I think when you read a book, you can go at your own pace. So everything slows down, and you can read as slow or as fast as you want to read. You can choose whatever information you want to choose, but it's calming. I guess I want to say it's calming. You can reset that way. And a lot of the books I read are about stuff that'll get me kind of fired up after I'm done reading it. Like, all right, great, I just learned something new. Let's go apply it.
Awesome. Well, I'll close us out on that question, and ditto to everything that you all said. Monica, I'm with you on that minimum of 30 minutes of me time. It's essential. I will just add that I have to have my gospel music in the morning. So I use that to kickstart my day off, and it usually works to get me fired up. And then if I have a big meeting, I have to throw on my Beyonce tracks, so I can go in there and kill it. But all those things that you all shared are things that I do. I want to take this time to say thank you to each and every one of you so much for joining us today. Challenges and all, we navigated through them, and we're stronger because of it. Thank you for your knowledge and your expertise that you shared. I also want to let the attendees know that we have developed a resource guide that will be sent out of podcasts and books and other tools to help you continue on your learning with the recording of this webinar. Thank you to COMTO Nationals and to our co-chairs, Aisha and Sorrell, for giving us this opportunity to bring this webinar to you. And with that, thank you so much to Vaturi.
All right, thank you all. That was a great webinar, and we managed to move through the glitches, and I think we have a lot of nuggets that were given to our audience. So with that, I'm just going to share some additional events that are coming up with COMTO. On April 29th, the Accessibility Advisory Council will present a meet and greet with the MTA's Chief Accessibility Officer. That's a new position for them, and they're doing great things at MTA. And we're going to have a pretty intimate discussion with the new Chief Accessibility Officer. On May 14th, we will have our 2020 Industry Awards virtual ceremony. This is where we're going to award our excellent COMTO chapters and organizations for the work they did in 2019. On May 15th, we have a deadline for the call for papers for our fall virtual conference. On May 21st, we have a deadline for the 2021 Industry Award nominations. So if you watch our May 14th event and feel like, I could be a winner, my chapter could be a winner, I know a great business or organization that could be a winner, May 21st is your deadline to nominate someone for the 2021 awards. And then our long-awaited fall 2021, we will have our virtual national meeting and training conference. Now, right now the date is TBD, but it's definitely going to happen in the fall. It will be virtual. And once again, there is a call for papers for that. And if you want any more information, oh, I'm sorry, I have one more thing to plug before I tell you about the website, is if you want to donate to our 50 for 50 campaign, that's where you donate $50 for our 50 years of moving the nation. You also get a COMTO 50 face mask with your donation. And finally, for more information about our events, the 50 for 50 campaign, and becoming a member, as Carita and others said, become a member of COMTO. There's many advantages to that, and become a member of the committee, become active. Visit comtonational.org. And once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Crystal, Russell, Carita, Monica, Whitney, and also everyone who helped make this happen in the background. Everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you.